What's up, man? How we doing?
What's up, Ryan? How are you, man?
I'm good. Oh, we got
Good.
we got the badass lifter in the back.
Yeah, she was like, I got to get in the workout. I was like, I don't think he'll mind. Like, he knows that's what we're doing, right?
All we do is lift here. It's totally fine.
Yeah,
You guys have a
it's a
great setup in the
20%
back
job.
too.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's funny. It's like,
Hey.
I own a gym and I operate it with a business partner of mine, and it's about like 25-minute drive from here.
Yeah,
So because, lifting is our life, and now we're doing a lot of like digital programming, and so there's like 2 or 3 days a week I actually don't even go to the gym. Like, we have people staffed, like the gym's
let's
going awesome.
go.
Yeah. So like, we're like, all right, we need a little home gym setup. Like, we need
Yeah.
something that's us. And I do a lot of like my instructional YouTube videos back there too. It's
Yeah.
just easier. When you're at the gym, it's like there's always somebody that's like, hey, are you recording a video? Like, what you guys do?
Did you get permission first, man?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Uh,
That's
but
how cool is it though? Because I feel like that's something like I never would have fathomed. That's part of the reason why, like part of me always wanted to do the gym thing. I feel like everybody starts off like that. They're like, I want my own equipment. I want to like be able to run it. How cool is
yeah.
that though that you can do like now you have like stay at home days?
Yes. Oh, absolutely, man. It's a blessing. But this is my lifestyle. It's like, before this ever became like a career, I lifted weights. Like, I always liked lifting weights. It's something I could always kind of control.
Hmm.
So like, the gym is like my workspace.
Hmm.
This gym is like my training space, and so
Yeah.
I kind of separate myself from that. And it seems weird. It's like, but I don't know. I like being able to do it here sometimes because I can just focus on me. When I'm at the gym,
Hmm.
my main focus is making sure that facility is going well. The members are happy. The staff
Yeah.
is doing what they're supposed to. Things are clean, organized,
Hmm.
stocked up, working with clients. So yeah. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, gym is life. It's with the name Chad, man. It's like I was born into it. It's like I had no fucking choice.
You really
Like,
had zero say into
I literally, yeah. No, man.
your
It's the
parents are like,
heritage.
he
It's the
will be a
name.
meathead. He will own a
Yeah,
gym. This is
exactly. Exactly.
this
Dude, that
is
was like that.
predetermined.
I know when that became a thing, what, like 4 or 5 years ago, Chads and
Yeah.
Brads thing.
Yeah, man.
Like, I'm looking at myself, I'm like, damn, I am the stereotype. When did this happen? Like, I'm not even trying to be.
You start looking in the mirror, you're like, my
Yeah,
God.
who am
Like,
I?
what is this? That's well, dude,
Yeah.
I could totally relate because I used to be an in-person trainer for like 7 years. And I the first few years I was working out in the gym I worked at. And then like year 4, year 5, I was like, I can't do this anymore because it's just like you need to get away from work, right? Because
Yeah.
that's just what you
Yep.
associate it as. And then like you
Yeah.
said, like clients are like, hitting you up, being like, "Oh, you're in the gym. Like, can you show me this real quick?" Or like,
Yes. Yeah.
even random people are like, "Hey, like, there's no paper towels in the bathroom." I'm just like, I am mid set here. Like, what do you
Yes.
like?
Yeah.
You
And
know?
they, it's funny. It's like they don't it doesn't comprehend it. Then they're not thinking about it in that aspect.
Right.
Or like some, I'll talk with a lot of my members and just like catch up. Oh, hey man, how are things? Like,
Yeah.
and maybe a 5-10 minute conversation. But then if
Yeah.
I do that with every single member that I pass, it's like 4 hours before I actually get to doing
Yeah.
anything I need to do. So
Yeah.
but that's a good problem to have. So
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm
Absolutely. Yeah.
thankful. I'm happy. It's been a lot of work, but it's been super rewarded, and I wouldn't change a thing. It's actually how I met her.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
If it wasn't for the gym, her and I probably would have never met. Maybe not, but
Yeah.
so yeah.
My man. Chad, you were born to meet her. Okay. The
Yeah,
name is
that's true.
Chad.
That's true. We would have found each other in some gym
Exactly.
somewhere anyway.
Exactly. Well, let's have you introduce yourself because we're
Yes. Oh,
let's
sorry.
not
Yeah.
mock the name Chad until you introduce the name yourself. So whatever you like, introduce yourself, whatever you want to say.
Okay. Okay. Well, I guess I would be like the OG, the original Chad. Uh,
Okay.
yeah. So I was born in Michigan. I was raised there. I moved down to South Carolina, Greenville, South Carolina, uh, when I was 21. So right around like 12 years ago.
Hmm.
Um, Before all that, when I was still in Michigan, I had been lifting weights since I was like 13, and like most guys, like adolescents, dabbled in just about every sport. I played a little bit of football, I played a little bit of basketball, but nothing ever really stuck. But I did play college volleyball for a long time, which that was like very unique for my build. Like I'm 5'11", I'm like 240-ish pounds, when I'm in a bulking phase. So I'm not built for that sport at all. So, but I was a big fan of always training my legs. So I had pretty good hops, and that helped out a lot. When I moved to South Carolina, I pursued like personal training, and I ended up getting, it would be an associate's degree in like exercise science, and then went on to get like nationally certified through NASM. When got USAW level 1 certified, so a little bit of weightlifting background as well, and then worked as a trainer for about 6 years for like a traditional global gym, big facility, offered amenities like racquetball, towel service, steam rooms, stuff. I think that's where everybody kind of starts, right?
For sure.
Yeah. And then I met my business partner, Logan Krieger, who is just an absolute stud. He's been there with me. We got together. We had a lot of similar ideologies. We didn't love the big global gym. Not that there's not a place for it. We know that that's a place for a lot of people to get what they need. But for us, we really enjoyed things like powerlifting, strongman training, a lot of just like more performance-based stuff. Machines we were okay with, but we were always those guys. Like our gym had, I think, 2 or 3 Smith machines and like 1 squat rack.
Yeah.
So we just didn't feel at home. We're just like, this is weird. We're all fighting over the single squat rack when we need to train. So yeah, we wanted to start a gym, and that's kind of where it all just started. So him and I, we started TriFit Barbell. It's in Malden, South Carolina, back in 2016. So from that point, we invested in it's a garage door, big, like 5,000 square foot, just open space with we've got 11, 12 squat racks, 11, 12 bench presses, 1,000,001 places to deadlift, turf, strongman equipment. Like I said, powerlifting equipment. We've got kilo calibrated plates. Like it's decked out, man. Performance. But over time, when we started, we had nothing.
Yeah.
Now we're at a pretty good spot. So we've been investing a lot in it, and it's been awesome. We've been pretty much doing that up till this point. I met that one now 4 years ago, I think. Yeah, it'll be right at 4 here in about 2 months. So she came up for our first powerlifting competition. TriFit held a USPA drug tested, we called it, what did we call it? Armageddon or something like that. Cause it was right around like 4th of July. So since my gym is like this big garage gym, right? It's open bay doors. We've got big industrial fans, but it gets hot, man. It's South Carolina. It's July. It's like 99 degrees and humidity is 112, so it's obnoxious. Yep. So she reached out to me right before the competition. I was going to compete along with hosting the event, and she was asking all these questions like, do you guys have a sauna and stuff like that? And it's like, girl, this is South Carolina. Like, you don't need a sauna. Like, the gym is like,
we're in the sauna.
It didn't occur to me what she was asking this question for. I was like, that's a bizarre question. And then she told me that she's cutting weight. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. Like, that makes a lot of sense. I'm like, are you worried the gym's not hot enough or something? Like, what's going on? So, but yeah, man, jumping all over the place. That's just kind of like the origin of it all. Yeah. Lifting weights for like a greater part of 20 years, played volleyball a lot, got into powerlifting, literally been doing push-pulls for like 10 years or so. And then I did my first like full meet about 6 years ago, just before the gym. And since then competed half a dozen times and worked up to a few state records that I currently hold. And then I've coaching people more specifically for powerlifting. Ever since we opened TriFit, like if I had to say I had one particular dynamic that I like to work with, it's powerlifters for sure.
Yeah. And you can tell, like, if you go to your Instagram, and anybody who goes to his Instagram, he's just a freaking animal. Like, I was like, whenever I would like peek over, like if Gabby ever tagged you in something, I'm just like, this guy is a freak. I'm like, my God, like whether it's the weight you're lifting or like physique wise, I'm just like absolute animal. But I think the reason that a lot of, or at least why I connect with your content too, was the educate. I think you do a great job education wise. just being able to simplify like what a deadlift movement should look like, or like I just looked at a video of you breaking down a client's form and sort of like how like breaking down how he initiates the pull or like anything like that. I was just like, this not only like physical beast, but you know he's got the education to help somebody as well. Let's go back to sort of when you were a Michigan boy, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what got you first into the gym?
Oh, so my father actually. My dad is one. He's my personal hero. Like my father and I, we had this great relationship. He's my best friend. Like there's nobody in this world that like next to her that like means more to me than my dad.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was 13 or so, I mean, this kind of started before all this. My parents, when they split, I had a tough time just personally with that, right? I was just angry, frustrated with the world. So my father kind of saw this happening and he thought the best thing that he could do is try to give me something that I could control because I couldn't control the outcome of what's going on. And, you know, I had played more traditional sports, you know, team sports, but I was also really rebellious for whatever reason, you know? So at that time I was rebellious in a sense, but I still wanted to control something. So started lifting weights. My dad bought me a Joe Weider bench, a fistful of dumbbells, you know, and then one day, and this is, you know, Michigan. So Michigan, we have like traditional Michigan basements are it's bricks, it's damp, it's dark, whatever lighting down there doesn't quite work for whatever reason.
Right.
Like these are the most dungy looking areas. So in the basement is where we kind of set up this little workout space. My dad goes down there, he gets me Arnold's Encyclopedia to bodybuilding. It's my 13th birthday present, right? So immediately I'm just like, this is cool. Like these dudes are huge. This is awesome. And he's like, all right, we're going to go through the arm workout. He puts me through this arm workout. Dude, I literally couldn't touch my own face. Like I got such a sick pump the first time. And it was,
first pump.
Dude, it was unreal. Yes, dude, my official first pump, 13 years old. And like, I was hooked, man. I went upstairs and my parents were still, you know, living together at that time. They were just like, you know, just going through tough. Anyway, I looked at my mom. I was like, Mom, I can't touch my face. And she just screams at my father, just like, Jerry, what'd you do to my son? Like, she's furious. Like, she doesn't understand what's happening. But I'm like, no, Mom, this is great. This is the best thing that's ever happened to me. Look how big I look. This is awesome. You know? So man, it just kind of grew from there. Like, it just, I don't think there's been a time period more than maybe a couple of weeks that I haven't lifted weights since I was about 13. You know, it's, even if I wasn't powerlifting or size, like there was a time where I just wanted to train for athletics, but I still knew the value of lifting weights and how that performs on the field. I never got away from that. You know, I always appreciated it, but again, man, I guess it's my lineage again, man. Chad, like I had to start somewhere. Like
every Chad has an origin story, man.
Dude, my dad gave me Arnold's Encyclopedia. It's like a golden Bible, just like here it is.
My father gave me this. I've marked the pages that made me the most swole. The thing I love, and I could relate a lot to your story, man, because you know, one, my parents split up when I was like a teenager too, and that was probably the first traumatic thing that happened in my life, and like I could tell in yours that was like a big thing as well. How you might ask how old are you when they split up?
So when they had been on the rocks for honestly since I could even remember. Like it was my parents had a lot of tough times financially. Things were tough. My dad, he's been an entrepreneur his whole life, so that always put stress just on the both of them. So I think when they officially like stopped living together, my father like really moved out, like didn't come back. It wasn't just a couple of days that they took some time apart to try to work things out. Probably like 14, something like that. So shortly after I got into like lifting weights is when, you know, he did what he could as long as he could. But I think my parents, like, you know, I have a good relationship with my mom, not super close. My father's always been the guy, you know? But you know, at least now they're on good terms. But yeah, man, it was tough for a long time. Like how old were you? You said you were a teenager when they
So I was 17 when my parents split up, but it isn't. I don't know if can you remember, like, because my dad moved out too, and I just remember that being like I still remember that to this day, like just like you know, him walking out the door, suitcase in hand, and just like that's such a vivid moment in life. Is that like something? Do you have like that memory as well?
So I don't have a specific memory of him leaving. I just remember the first time I went to go visit him.
Yeah.
After he, it's like he was my dad. Both of my parents have 8 siblings each, so I have 16 aunts and uncles. So my father, for the time immediately after separating, he basically just kind of couch hopped between some of his brothers. My father has 8 brothers. My grandfather had 9 boys.
That's crazy.
My grandmother, dude, she's just a trooper. Like, she's not with us anymore, but I'm so proud of her. I'm like, 9 freaking boys in a house. Insane. And a husband. Oh, it's crazy.
Right.
But so yeah, I do remember going to visit him at one of my uncle's house one time, and just not sure how to feel about the whole thing. This awkward tension. So I mean, it's tough. It's adolescence to go through something like that. Like, you go your whole life thinking mom and dad, they're just this unit, this thing. I can always this, and then having them be separate, it's like adjusting to that. Super hard. So having, honestly, something that I could control, that we could control, lifting weights, playing sports, I think is so important for young men. Especially in times like this. Like, even if everything at home is great, exercise is so vital for good health, good emotional health in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and I love how, like, the how you associate, because there's so many people that could, like, associate, like your mom, for instance. First time you worked out, your mom's like, what are you doing to him, right?
Yes.
But your memory of that is, this is the first time that you were introduced to, when things are out of your control, here's what you can do that is in your control, right?
Yep.
And that's a huge life lesson to get at 13, 14 years old, right? Because that paves the way for when life sucks, well, let me look at what I can do instead of, fixating on what I can't do. Yeah,
absolutely. 100%. I didn't know it at the time, for sure, though.
Yeah.
Like, I was unaware of what I was actually doing there, because I was still rebellious.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, man, but I made my fair share of mistakes, and I had to hit my head hard a number of times, both like metaphorically and literally.
He just hits his head against the wall. It's crazy.
Just dumb stuff, man. I mean, I went through, I was that guy that I did have not a chip on my shoulder, but there was a time that, like, self-esteem was hard. So I worked out, I trained, and that also just made me, like, I don't know, just not angry, but I would find reasons to, like, I'd be that dude, like, on Michigan State campus. If someone, like, bumps into me, I'd immediately get, like, pissed. And it took me forever to, like, get past that. It's like, oh man, shut up. Like, nobody needs to fight. It's cool. Shit happens. But yeah, there was a brief period of time there. It was just like, I got punched in the face a couple times, and then I learned from that. I'm just like, this sucks. I don't want to do this no more.
Absolutely. Yeah, you took the physical punches and the mental punches.
Yeah.
And it's interesting too, right? Because I'm sure, like, your immediate reaction is just someone, like, even if they're just brushing against you, like the anger reaction, probably just like resentment or whatever you had built up from you the whole time.
Yep. Has nothing to do with them. It's just me. It's just me being a but,
so when did the Michigan boy decide, all right, I'm done with Michigan, let me go to South Carolina?
So right, what was this, 3 years after graduating high school. So I graduated in 2007, and my father at that point, he was looking for somewhere to move out of state. Well, he ended up moving to Greenville, South Carolina, and I stayed up in Michigan for a couple of years. I was going to Michigan State. I was, taking classes. Nothing was really going in one direction. I was bouncing all over. I was playing some college volleyball here and there. That was honestly the only thing that I was probably taking super serious. And everything else was very relaxed. Like, I was working little side jobs, but just no real direction. I didn't know if I was going to continue to go to school there. Like, I really thought about physical therapy, but at the end of the day, it didn't feel right. So he moved down here, and then he asked me to come visit. I don't know have you ever been to this area before?
I've been to Clinton Head. Is that, like, I don't think that's
that's close. Yeah, maybe a couple hours, something like that.
That's the only place I've been in South Carolina, so I can't.
Okay. All right, no worries. Well, we're fortunate here. So the downtown area, they've actually built this pretty badass, I would say like 40, 50-foot waterfall right in the center of
Oh wow.
downtown. And so they build all of this stuff around it. Like there's this big bridge that goes across it. And then obviously there's tons of restaurants and stuff that goes down, like, this river that runs through the waterfall and comes down. So the area is just cool. And I remember walking downtown with my dad the first time I was in town. People were polite. They were moving out of the
Right.
way. Like even like these young kids, man, they were like, yes, sir. And they moved around for me. And I was like 21 at the time. Like, those kids just call me sir. Like, that was wild.
Right.
And that's not a jab at Michigan, but people aren't nearly as like I would say friendly in first exchanges
Sure.
in Michigan. I don't know if it's the weather. Cold as shit, man. Don't say good morning to me. Leave me alone.
Right.
So when I came to visit, it just made sense. I'm like, this place is cool. I've spent my whole life in Michigan. It's worth a shot. If I move back, I move back. But why not try? My dad, of course, he wanted me to be here, and I've always been close to my father. So I was like, you know what? I'll give it a shot. I moved here for a while, and I fell in love with the city, man. I fell in love with the place. I miss a lot of family and friends back home. I try to visit maybe once or twice a year, but Greenville is definitely home now, and I'm happy here. I'm setting some roots. Yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, dude, I could totally relate to because I'm from Connecticut and I live in New York City right now. And dude,
so you moved from cold to cold.
cold to cold, just like an hour south of where I was before. But it's so true how I don't know if it's the weather either, or maybe it's just like that, like just the culture of wherever we've been. But just like if somebody says hi to you, you're just you kind of like take like what are you what are we doing here? Just like
what's that supposed to be? Hi. Yeah.
Exactly. But that is definitely like such a down south thing of just like people are very personable, right? Which I personally enjoy too, based off my personality. So then you move to South Carolina. And then what sort of takes place that leads you to where you are now?
Yeah, so when I first moved here, I knew I needed to get back into school. So there is a technical college here that offered a personal training program. Well, in that program, you can finish the program and they would give you basically like credits towards getting a national certification of some sort. So I think it was NASM, ACSM, ACE, and maybe ESA. But it was all kind of affiliated with those organizations, or you could take a few more classes and it would essentially be put towards like an associate's degree. So I ended up going that route, but then after I graduated, going and getting the national certification, because the gym that I was interested in, that I did some interning at, they required this national certification. Want to get this credit, and I'm like, that's cool. In hindsight now, it's like, and not to knock anyone that's nationally certified, it's fantastic. Do it, knock it out. I wouldn't say that particular requirement was beneficial for me in my road to where I am now. Honestly, experience was everything. So when I first moved here, schooling, but the school was also very adamant about getting a lot of hands-on experience. So I started interning right away, started just trying to coach people, coach friends, getting connections with, I was a big volleyball player still, and a lot of people wanted to jump higher or get stronger because they knew I did lift weights and I played the game. I would get a couple of clients that way, so that was cool. But yeah, that's I guess that's how it like slowly developed before I finally got a job with the big global gym that no longer associated with.
There you go.
So they were good. It's good gym.
Yeah, well, I totally relate too. But and it's interesting too how like that's just the process, right? Where it's just like, oh, you want to be a trainer, you need to get certified in this or this. But like, I went through a program that actually it's a lot better than just like the online ones nowadays where you can just get it in like a month. My program was like there was an in-person class and then there was a practical portion. So you went to a gym another day, like 2 other days during the week, which was good, right? It was good experience in learning how to instruct someone and maybe how to instruct them different in a way. But I agree. Like I think training certifications are so overrated now because like you said, the most I learned for training someone was when I actually was experiencing the actual training of somebody, right?
Yeah,
That's when you learn the most of anything.
exactly. And it's like so much of I remember so much of the NASM was like statistics, and that's fine. Like
Yeah.
metrics for, what's the obesity rate in America? Like those are cool facts, but like
Mm-hmm.
when am I ever going to use this information? So
Right.
some of a lot of the stuff, like some of these national certifications put in the book, it's like, yeah, that's helpful, but really I think the areas that primarily, if you want to be a good coach or trainer, like
Mm-hmm.
learn anatomy, learn physiology, learn some like good like biomechanics and stuff like that. That's going to be important. I wish they would do more instruction on like actual programming. So actually how to play ball,
Yes.
good macro cycles and mesocycles and what that entails and how to periodize things properly. That's
Mm-hmm.
something I had to kind of figure out on my own through just like, honestly, when was this? YouTube started blowing up with all these fitness influencers, what, maybe 8, 9 years ago, something like
Yeah.
that. All of a sudden 3DMJ comes on and has all this series on how to periodize. And it's just like, I remember being a trainer and having just a couple of years experience, knowing that I needed to track information, program properly, but just not sure how to structure it all. Like it all just
Mm-hmm.
like I knew pieces, but it wasn't fitting together. So seeing guys like Eric Helms and Mike Zordos and stuff like that putting out this amazing material, it just sparked this interest. I'm like, oh, there's more to this.
Right.
There's so much more. And damn, dude, like I started diving down the rabbit hole really hard then.
Yeah.
Got into powerlifting, performance and strength sports. And I realized the benefits of that. Always wanted to do almost like a power building blend. I think that word gets thrown around a lot these
Yeah.
days. But I think that's definitely something I always kind of liked. It's nice to look the part, be the part. So like in my
Yes.
frame, I've always been built for like lifting heavy. Like I don't know why I chose a sport that like
Mm-hmm.
you can't teach tall.
Right.
So people that are naturally just going to be taller are going to have advantages, and I would always have to work twice as hard. And it just the sport, like I'd never went to the level that I wanted to go to. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
powerlifting, though, it's like, dude, anybody can do this sport. Now you may have
Yeah.
one or two lifts that's all right, you've got long arms and a short torso. Okay, bench is going to be your worst enemy,
Right.
but you're going to be a badass deadlifter,
Right.
and so it's like you get one or two lifts. It's like, yeah, you're going to get really good at these, but you might have one that's just going to be your Achilles heel. It's not going to
Mm-hmm.
be your proudest moment, but that's okay. It's like I think that's what makes the sport so fun and inviting. Is like anybody can do this, even if like I've got a couple clients that squatting's just not in the cards for them. That's
Mm-hmm.
okay, but
Right.
we still bench. We still do press, and we still deadlift.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been an evolution. I've really enjoyed it. What style of training do you usually like go for? What's your choice?
Yeah, I mean, so one, I love everything that you just said because it's true that the information that you really need to learn, you have to go out and seek it, right?
Yeah.
Because they don't teach you off the bat.
No.
And then my style, I've kind of when I first started, same thing. My dad took me to the gym when I first started, and it's just like your traditional. Let me introduce you to like the weights and all that stuff. Not like
Yeah.
squatting or anything like that. Like getting used to
Yeah.
the routines. And then I would just end up curling in the corner, like because I was just like, like gym anxiety and just like I just want bigger arms.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but my style like has transitioned from I went from being trained for training for sports, so football was my
Right.
primary sport. So from athletic based training, I had a mentor similar to your dad, but he was like the 65-year-old strength coach at my high school, and he was also the economics teacher. His name was Mr. Bodner, and he literally just like before all the football workouts, he would take me through a workout himself and just like literally teach me about why he's programming it, how to do this exercise, and then like
Yeah.
kick my ass, right?
Yeah. Of
And then
course.
hand me like an orange
That's
at
part
the
of the
end of
lesson.
yeah. And then hand me an orange at the end, be like, how was that for like an old man workout, right? So he was
Yeah.
just like, but like, just a genuine dude who just taught me a lot.
That's awesome.
So I started off athletic based training, and then more, then I got into almost like a CrossFitty, but not full on CrossFit. Just again because it kind of weaved with like athletic based training. And then once I graduated college, I got into like bodybuilding, more strength workouts, because I was just like, I want to want to look good naked. Like I want to just.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of hot chicks here. It's really
That's
awesome.
right.
I need to get some arms.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Maybe she'd like me more if my arms were bigger,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Right. But then and then then I one of my mentors too, I don't know if you've heard of Jordan Syatt, but he was actually big in powerlifting for a while. He's like one of the few people who's like, he was like, I forget how much he weighed, but he did like a 500-pound deadlift and weighed in like less than like 120 pounds or something like that. Like legit
Yeah.
freak.
Yeah. No kidding.
Yeah, so he's more like power building style. So now I do more like a power building where I'll get my deadlifts in. I don't do squats as much because wear and tear from sports on my knees and all that
Sure.
stuff. But I like
Yeah.
doing powerlifting mixed with bodybuilding because I just enjoy the two benefits of both of those. But yeah, that's my style now.
That's awesome. No, hell yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
It's always fun, man, when you get like an old school like lifter, like your coach, your mentor here,
Yeah.
and they bring in this style, and it's just like, and a lot of it, man, and it hasn't changed. It's just like a lot of the fundamentals and those initial principles
Mm-hmm.
really haven't been revamped. And the fitness industry, of course, clickbait is everything. And so people,
Right.
if you try this particular blah, you're going to get the results that you've never got before. It's like, no, you're fucking not, because if you're not doing all the actual like, fundamental concepts and principles, that's 90% of it. If you're doing 90% of it, you're going to have some serious results, And so, but yeah, I love the old school because it's just, hey, hard work, stay consistent, don't be an idiot.
Right.
And that's kind of, and that's it.
That's it, dude.
So,
and a lot of I mean you'll hear every good trainer says it's just master the basics, right? Like that's why I cringe whenever I see people getting like electrocuted during their workouts now, because it's like, oh, this will stimulate your muscle. I'm just like, no, you're shocking yourself. Like, what are you doing?
It looks like a bad Jackass tape.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
what is happening here? Absolutely.
Right, oh, this is gonna make your glutes grow so much more because you're not working this part. It's like, I don't think so. But one thing I wanted to ask you, because I like I said, you have a great knowledge for training, programming, all that in general. And I really want to make sure whoever's listening to this can take some good things away for their lifts. So my one of my questions for you is, because like I said, I saw one of your clients doing the deadlifts. What would be like if you could tell someone like the most important things for how to set up for a deadlift, and then when actually doing the deadlift, like what are your best cues to give somebody?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I like to create efficiency through simplicity, right? Over complicating even like squat, bench, and deadlift. Part of the reason why I love them so much is they're so simple at its core. Like hinge, stand up, push away. Like these are fundamental actions, right? But the more you get into the movements, the more you realize kind of how that rabbit hole goes down. And there's parts and pieces. So if I had to help someone get good at deadlifting, I think there's probably like three main components that I would teach them how to get good at. Learning how to properly hinge, so bending at the waist and keeping a semi-neutral spine, so knowing how to utilize their hamstrings and their glutes into this hinging action, knowing how to manipulate their shoulder position. So, getting into like a reverse shrug, it's like a lot of people are great at touching their ears.
Right.
And I just, again, I'll keep it simple. I'm like, screw scapular depression. It's like, I don't need to make this more, just reverse shrug for me. Do the opposite. And then bracing by their breathing, learning how to breathe. If I can get them to hinge, pack shoulders, and brace with their abs, how they pick it up, I can work on. And there's been so many styles that I've seen. Everyone's body type is so different. So, and now with the sumo becoming so prevalent, and a lot of people, if they can get into this wide open strong stance and hold that position and actually generate some force, the numbers just shoot up. But then you're seeing all these different like I almost pull like a semi sumo. Like I wouldn't say mine's a traditional sumo.
Like
I just can't get wide and hold it. Yeah. So mine's like this borderline conventional, but I found from my leverages, my torso length, my arm length, like I'm a tremendous bencher. more because I've got a short humerus and a big rib cage.
Mm-hmm.
I'm efficient as shit, man. Like for
Mm-hmm.
bench, just because I don't have to travel as far.
Right.
But I pay for it in my deadlifting because I can't reach as far, and I've got a pretty long torso, pretty long femurs. So going into this semi-sumo position always worked well for me.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of saying, hey, you have to stand feet so many width apart, arms so much width apart, all of those stuff does need to be determined later on, but that's going to have to be in person. So there's no general rules there, but knowing how to hinge at the waist, if you pull sumo, if you pull conventional, there's hinging of some sort, you know, and knowing how to manipulate shoulder position, also important, because if you want to pick something up, you need strong lats, you need your back involved. You know, thinking it's just hips and hamstrings and that your back isn't being trained, right? It's ridiculous. Or vice versa, thinking that it's just your back and not your legs. Well, it's possible you're doing a straight leg deadlift, and yeah, you're not maybe getting as much out of your legs as you could by pushing off the floor. But there is some compensation there, and embracing. Like I remember the time period that I finally started to figure out how to breathe properly when you lift weights. I never knew how to belt worked. You know, it's like that stuff again wasn't like bodybuilding. They didn't really talk about bracing against the belt. That information wasn't there. It was, you know, time under tension, different ways to stimulate muscle fibers. And it's like, okay, there's all these ways on how to basically damage your body more so it grows.
Yeah.
But efficiency wasn't necessarily part of the bodybuilding methodology. I mean, some aspects maybe, like you know, I know a lot of bodybuilders were all like full range of motion, everything. That's the best way to go. And that's a great tip. But like as far as like efficiency and moving load across, you know, this plane, you know, you need to know how to brace here. And so once I learned that, man, my strength just started to shoot up. But I remember before that, I remember being in the gym and seeing these guys. There were a couple of guys that came through. The first time I ever kind of like witnessed a powerlifter in person, these dudes came through, and one of them was probably 220 pounds. He goes and picks up like 615. His buddy, who's like 350, this guy was massive, goes over and pulls like 700 for a double. And I'm just like, what the hell is this? And then I go into like, you know, into like the corner, and I'm just like, all right, I'm going to deadlift now. I gotta get big. And I remember going to like 315, and I remember just pointing, I'm like, damn, this is hard, man. It's like, we'll get strong. And I would work up. I think before I probably even learned how to brace properly, I was pulling in the mid 500s. This was all back. This is all back and legs, but I wasn't truly using my ab muscles. Probably around 2010, I would say, 7 or 8 years ago, I learned how to brace. And then all of a sudden this window of, wow, okay, I'm getting stronger and my back isn't getting tired as fast. You know, I'm utilizing an entire body to move load as opposed to one specific area. For bodybuilders, we're all about isolation. Nothing's truly isolated, but we're trying to target certain areas a little more than others. So with powerlifting, it's efficiency. How do we move as a unit? So if you can learn how to wedge or hinge at the hip, know how to depress and pack your shoulders, and then know how to brace here, any other way that you pick it up it's going to work really well. And, you know, having somebody else right there, like, oh, you might look better if you come closer to the bar, or you might actually be better if you step back. You know, some of my bigger guys, and as I've gotten larger over the years, I find that the distance that I have to have from the bar itself when I start is changing. I do have to move back further. I've got more mass to kind of get into a proper place. I can't close myself in as much as I used to. Even with my hand width, like I hate that I'm slowly becoming that dude that has to put his hands on the edges of the bar. Like I'm like, damn it. Like, this wasn't supposed to happen, you know? Like, I look like I really can't just move my arm.
It was supposed to happen.
It was supposed to happen, man. I mean, I try to get my hands closer, but it just it kills now.
I get the same thing, dude. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm not wrong.
No, you're not. I think what would be like your best cues for teaching someone how to brace? Because that is such a, even if you're not powerlifting, that's just such an important thing just to prevent injuries, right? So what would be like your best cues to teach someone how to brace?
Oh yeah. You know, I really like having people lay on their stomach sometimes and literally try to push against the floor. I guess that would be more of like a physical cue. Like verbal cues, I'm all about. I think a lot of them would be like, taking in a good breath but pushing it down. Expansion of the midsection. Like I'll tell a lot of people, take your pointer finger, take your thumb, put it right there on your hips or just above your hips, and then try to push against them. That's always a great way to make sure that they're not just pushing out, but they're pushing forward or out. They're also pushing out to the sides. They're actually getting their obliques involved, their transverse abdominal muscles, that whole like fire. It's like, I also like to toggle. I think it's always a great opportunity to bring up why a weightlifting belt works, or power, or, leather belt, all that stuff. It's like the idea is that it's not necessarily supporting your spine. It's just there, putting two things against each other doesn't mean they're supporting each other,
right?
But what it does give is it gives the abs something to push against to help stimulate muscle fibers, to tell them, when you reinforce that kind of, that tension. So I'll explain to them that that's how a belt works. And that also seems, for whatever reason, that helps it click about oh, okay, I get it. I'm isometric. I'm flexing without changing in length. But yeah, I love physical cues when it comes to teaching some of this stuff, because even like communicating it, it translates, but what perception is everything. So it's like you and I can hear the same phrase and get a completely different, feedback for ourselves. So I like physical training for some of these cues. So I'll have people literally lay on their stomach and just try to push against the ground. Like I want to see their actual like body kind of rise, or I'll have them lay against a wall, and it's called like a 90-90 position, where I'll have them pick their pelvis off the ground. And then once they're in that position, I'll actually set like a medicine ball or something on their stomach, and I'll tell them to push against it. And I like that position because it equates directly to like a squat when you're at the bottom, when your hips and knees are about 90 degrees. So in that position, I think it also kind of helps, like, okay, push here. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So starting with some of those, I think is really, really helpful. Just expansion, take a breath, push it out. Try not to take a breath into your chest, which is very hard. It's very foreign. We always kind of breathe up. But I'll teach them, it's like, hey, there's a time and place for that too. It's like, nothing necessarily is bad for you. It's just circumstantial. When would we want to use that?
Right.
Like, the best great time to breathe into your chest, make your chest bigger. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
But when you're picking up something from the floor and it's heavy, it's just like your back's gonna have to do all of it if you don't know how to flex those abs. But yeah, I'll use those physical cues a lot. That's been really helpful for a lot of my athletes. And I've had the pleasure of now working with some athletes that like English isn't their first language. Gabby is, and I'm slowly learning Spanish, but being able to communicate what I want to get out of the exercises with these physical actions, I think really helps it. Oh, okay, I feel it here. Yeah, that's where I want you to feel it. That's what I want the sensation to be like.
Yeah.
So that's been a lot of the tools that I use.
Well, all those are super helpful. Like I'm definitely, when I go to the gym, like in an hour, I'll lay on the floor and like try to flex my stomach.
How it goes, dude.
I'll text you.
I always like just throwing it out there. If I can give anybody any like just a little tip, like it makes me so happy. Because I've learned all this stuff from somebody else. Somebody else has helped me. I've formulated my own theories and ideas and tried to put pieces together. But like knowledge is power, man. I love just passing out the power. Like this is awesome.
Yeah, dude, and like I said, that's exactly why my mentor in high school, like I owe everything to, because it's just somebody who people we've all had, like, and I've had a few mentors, but there's so many people who just have given to us without asking for anything in return. And that's like, that is, unmatchable. Like it's just like such a blessing. Right. And then, whether they know it or not, you are gifting that knowledge to somebody else, and then but it's formulated with your little twist on it, maybe with another mentor and this mentor. So I 1,000% agree, man. So my next question for you is, if somebody is brand new to powerlifting, what would be like 5 things they need to know prior to starting the sport? If you can narrow it to 5, there's probably like 100.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah. I guess it would depend on how far they want to go with it.
Yeah.
Because I think anybody can do this sport. For example, I do have a client who has cerebral palsy. And Elijah is probably the most mentally strong person I've ever met in my life. And he inspires me and everyone in the gym like no other. He's just, the dude is always so positive. He works so hard. It's unbelievable the work ethic this guy has. So for him to come in and, we work around our situation, we work with what we have. He's still powerless. He competed at my gym back in November, his first time, USPA federated sanctioned meet, man. It was awesome. Crowd favorite, of course. But he bench pressed, he deadlifted. It was an awesome day. So I think the sport's for everyone. So that being said, it's like when you get into it, I think repetition, practice is everything. Like every sport, I think a lot of people, like anything really, right? I suck at math. Well, do you study? No. Well, don't expect to be good at math. Like powerlifting is that too. It's a sport like anything else. It's like football, it's like we had lots of practices to get good for a game that has a lot of variables, and so you just got to cover a lot of dynamics. Powerlifting is simplistic. You can literally just squat, bench, and deadlift and knock that out. I would say frequency. So repetition through frequency, you need to be visiting these movements all the time. If you're not doing at least one of them per workout, you're shooting yourself in the foot. Two, I think an environment that is conducive with the sport is always going to be a really good idea because that's where you're going to probably learn the most next to getting a coach. If you're in a space that people are also powerlifting, you're going to feel much more at home, much more comfortable. There are certain gyms that like powerlifting is kind of frowned upon or that style of training, right? I would avoid those facilities, find a gym, and they're getting popular, man. Like even like CrossFit gyms, a lot of CrossFit gyms will let you go in and powerlift and whatnot. So it's awesome.
Yeah.
But so, frequency, find a gym that's, conducive with it. Get a coach. I know it's like I'm biased.
Yeah, of course.
But I know I've had, dude, I've had, my father was he's my original mentor. He's the man, but I have worked with now 3 powerlifting coaches in my career. And I've had one that's like a mentor. She never directly programmed for me. She worked for Gabby, but Stacy Burr, who at one time was the strongest person in the world. Her Wilks score was higher than any other person that had ever done any powerlifting. Wow. I mean, she's a 140-pound athlete that squatted 545. Wow. Benched 335 and then deadlifted like 555. Stacy, she's a superstar, but she is so strong and mentally and like mindset. So all the coaches that I've actually had, I believe so much in coaching that I have a coach. I think when you get to a point where you start thinking you got it all figured out, you backtrack. So if have a coach, that means you're staying in your that student position. And I think honestly, like being a student is always a good thing. You're curious, you're trying to learn more. That's just self-improvement. If you're, even if you're a coach, being a good student, like I try to be a good student, makes me a better coach. I'm just passing on that information, like we just said, So frequency, get a gym, get a coach. Honestly, I would also, man, this is going to sound completely backwards. I would avoid going out and just starting to invest in all the gear and shit that goes with it. I think people jump the gun on throwing on a belt, and obviously it gets misused, but people grab their belt before they even like warm up, or even get under a bar. They've already got their knee sleeves on. They've already got their wrist wraps on. And it's like, you haven't even touched a bar yet. You've already geared up. It's like your joints need to move, man. Your body needs to be itself in a unit. And if you can't brace without a belt, like putting on the belt is only going to be a Band-Aid. Like you're eventually going to run into issues because you're probably not bracing the way you think you're bracing. Right. You'd be surprised how many people have powerlifted for years thinking they're breathing properly. And then I'll assess them and go through a couple exercises and a couple drills. And it's like, no, dude, you weren't bracing at all. Like you were doing this different stuff, just pulling up or not pushing down enough or not expanding, but just kind of tightening. And so there's little things that I'd work on, but I say stay away from getting all that and just be yourself. Let your joints get stronger on their own. There will be limits and there'll be a point when I'll start saying, okay, now let's go ahead and throw on a belt because that can help be the icing on the cake. but we need really good cake first, because good
Right.
icing and shit cake is awful.
Right.
Like,
Just masking it. It's like that. This
yeah,
is just
dude,
masking how
yeah,
bad this cake is.
yeah. So don't jump into that stuff. Just get into it, man. Just start training. There'll be a time you'll need the sleeves, you'll need all that, but learn the practice, enjoy it, and learn how to position your wrist and your joints. It's like some of that gear can kind of close people into positions. It's like you're not actually learning how to hold that position. Like, I don't know how many people that I know bench and their wrist is just rolled back about as far as you can. Some coaches think that this is actually a better position for generating force and stuff like that. I'm in the position of, this is such a vulnerable joint. I can't imagine this position actually being all that advantageous than this. Right. So I'm a big advocate for, if you're benching, that wrist needs to be straight. When we squat, that's a different story. And I could go down that rabbit hole, but when you're benching, keep the wrist neutral. So, but learning how to do that of your own accord, not because you're wrapped up, I think is important. So stay away from the gear. Yeah. And I think lastly, man, like don't compare yourself to anybody else. Don't try to, I saw, Ray Williams or whatever on, Instagram, and he was squatting 1,000, like, and I'm over here with my 50 pounds on the bar. And it's just like, well, yeah, man, he's a pro powerlifter. Like, this is his job. Like, this dude is literally sponsored by everything. And it's like, he lives for it, he breathes for it. He's been doing it for a decade. It's like, this is what he is and who he is. So I think that can turn people away from the sport. They come into it, they find out that this is a little harder, that they're not as strong as they'd like. And it's like, but hey, if you stick with it, everyone started somewhere. There's some naturally gifted people out there. We've seen it in every sport. There's just people that's just like, you were born to play this sport, or you were born to just be an absolute just athlete. There's tons of people in that in powerlifting. Like my mentor, Stacy is special. And she doesn't say that she is, but it's like Stacy is special, maybe not in her physical abilities, but her mental strength. Stacy worked her ass off for years to get to that level. This is not something she just came up with. Right. So I think being patient and kind of staying in your lane, focus on yourself. Even like when people do their first competition, that's when the anxiety seems to kick in too. It's like, oh, but what if there's people that are stronger than me? And it's like, well, since this is your first one, that's a guarantee. Right. But
yeah, no.
but I don't say that. I just tell them, like, you know what, you're going to be so focused on yourself when you compete, like in how you're doing, that you're probably not really going to notice that dude. Right. When you're a spectator, yeah, you notice everybody. You notice the ones that are like, oh wow, that dude's lifting like 200-300 pounds more than everybody else. That dude's insane. Right. But you'll be so focused on yourself and your own training. That's the best thing you can do. You'll make progress. You'll get better. It's a patience game. It's I've been lifting since I was a kid. Like I kind of earned this shit. Right. If we could obtain serious levels of strength so easy, everybody would be super strong, or we would take it for granted and we probably wouldn't care all that much. But there's something very gratifying about picking up something you've never picked up, or pushing something you never did. And but that comes with literally just kind of staying focused on yourself. So that's gonna be my piece of advice.
What a great top 5. It was like flawless. That was flawless.
I gotta write those down, dude. I can take that back if you ask me.
Content, man. That was perfect. But I could totally relate to your number 4, because I was the guy who I had like an Inzer belt before I even knew how to brace my core.
I did too, man. I did too, for sure. Yeah. Oh yeah. I had wrist wraps. I remember when I bought my first pair of knee sleeves, and I wasn't quite sure. I was wearing them for everything. Yep. There wasn't an exercise I was taking them off for a second there. But I also,
leg extensions
sports too.
Need it.
Yeah. It literally, yeah. I was like, my knees have taken such a hit. I need this. This bad. And I learned later on, it's like all those things I was doing to my knees were just not, it was just too much, we all run into that issue. You start getting strong, so you get excited. So you start just going ham on everything, and then you feel like shit, and it stops moving, your elbows start hurting, and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's because we weren't training smart. We just we saw whatever we compared ourselves to others. Oh, they're wearing knee sleeves. That's how they're lifting 1,000 pounds. Let me throw those on too.
Right. Literally. Don't question the why. You just put them on. Don't question it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, blue looks good. I'll take the blue one. Absolutely, dude. Well, I really appreciate you hopping on this, man. I think
Oh, Ryan, absolutely, man. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate having me on.
yeah, dude. I mean, one, it's like I said, it's great. Like same thing when I was talking to Gabby the other day. I was like, it's just cool to connect with people over the internet that you see all the time.
Yeah,
Um,
man.
like I said, I love like all your like not only like I said, are you the physical beast, but like your brain, I think, is the thing that has just impressed me the most. And I think a lot of people are gonna appreciate all the tips that you gave on this, and also like your story. Like I said, I can personally relate to that too, and it means a lot to me that you shared that as well.
Yeah, man. Absolutely.
And I'd love to come check out TriFit Barbell
Dude, please.
ever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're always excited when people come from out of town and hang out with us. And her and I have been doing this digital coaching for a couple of years, and so we've got clients. I mean, she all over the world. I had a client in Estonia for a while, and I'm like, this is so badass. It's like,
Yeah.
and
It's
being
cool.
able to do that, man, it's so cool.
Yeah.
So connecting with so many people like yourself, like without all this technology, we wouldn't be able to do this. So it's been awesome. And then when any time someone can like come to visit, it's stupid exciting. So yeah, man, always welcome at our house.
Let's go. I'm down.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Come check out that waterfall in town.
Yeah, no, seriously, man. We need to tour around, dude. It's sick, man. You might not want to go back. I'm telling you, it's crazy now, and it's become like a little big city, in itself. Like it's growing. It's like Charlotte's like in what hour and a half from here. Charlotte's big. It's got the stadium, and stuff like that. It is like a small version of Charlotte, and Charlotte's a badass city to stay in. So we're doing, we're growing, we're becoming popular. It's a good spot, but I miss the North too, man. I do miss back home.
Yeah.
People are a little more sarcastic. They get me. When I first moved here, everyone thought I was an asshole. I was like, no, my name is Chad and I'm a bro. It doesn't mean I'm an asshole. I'm just really sarcastic.
Right. You're like, don't your friends shit on you too? Isn't this just how this works? It's just like
how we greet best friends and family. It's just like, it's immediately insult, and that's how you family.
Yeah, dude. That's like literally. I had the same thing with a buddy I met here, and he was from. I think he's just from Ohio, and I was just like, I did the same thing, and he's like, dude, are you picking on me? I'm like, no, I'm just like, you look at my whole text there, all my boys, it's just like everybody's like, making fun of each other. I'm just like, I thought this is what we would do.
Yes, yeah, you hurt my feelings, man.
I'm sorry, man. My bad. I totally get that, but yeah, man, I appreciate you.
Absolutely, man.
Where can people find you?
Yeah. So my IG account is the most arrogant name. the _coach _Chad. So it's that email. That was an advisory thing. The whole marketing and stuff. But like if you're gonna be Chad and you're gonna be a coach, you just gotta embrace, right? So you're gonna be that dude. So I'm the Coach Chad.
There we
go. My gym, TriFit Barbell, is at Malden, South Carolina. So if anybody's in this area or ever comes through, always welcome. We're a 24/7 space. You can literally DM us the day before you come through town. We'll get you with a key fob. You be hooked up. So, but yeah, that's probably the two best places. And I throw out some stuff on Facebook, but just not as active there. Yeah, and me and Gabby, we've got a website we're working on and stuff like that. Of course, you can always go through her stuff. She's much more popular and she puts out so much more content than I do. Like, she puts me to shame how much stuff.
Hey, rule number 5, man. Rule number 5. Don't compare yourself. You son of a bitch. What are you doing?
She's in a whole nother lane. I don't need to be acting like that.
Hey, you're good, man. You're in your own lane. You're good. You're cruising.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude. Awesome. Well, everybody, make sure you go check out Chad. Yeah, dude. Appreciate you. We'll stay on a little bit just to talk a little bit after. But
sure.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
Same. Thank you.
All right. Later.